All right, let's dive right in. Today, we are tackling some of the biggest questions you can possibly ask. We're talking about the nature of reality, the mystery of your own mind, and what it all means now that we're in the age of artificial intelligence.
So let me just start by asking you something directly. That world you see around you right now, is it real? I mean, really, truly real. The chair you're on, the device you're watching this on, how can you be so sure that it's the actual objective truth of things?
Now, you might think this is just some philosophical game, but it's not. Some of the smartest people in cognitive science, physics, and philosophy, they're seriously making the case that our entire perception of reality is just a grand, very convincing illusion. And their argument starts with one single, massive problem.
It's called the hard problem of consciousness, and it's a doozy. We can map out every neuron in the brain, we can track all the electrical signals firing, but we have no idea how all that physical stuff creates the feeling of seeing the color red or the joy of hearing a great song. The subjective inner world you live in. That giant question mark is the crack in the foundation of our entire old-school worldview.
So if our experience isn't a perfect window looking out onto reality, then what is it? Well, our first guide on this trip is cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman, and he has this really powerful metaphor to help us get our heads around it. So, here's Hoffman's big idea. Evolution didn't shape us to see the truth. Not at all. It shaped us to survive. He says our perception is basically a user interface, just like the desktop on your computer. Think about it. The little blue icon for a document isn't the document itself, right? It's not the actual code and circuits. It's just a simple symbol that lets you use the computer without having to be an electrical engineer. And this is where the logic gets really cool. Evolution is all about fitness. It's a game of survival. An ancient creature that saw the raw, unfiltered, mind-bogglingly complex truth of reality would just stand there stunned and get eaten. But an animal that sees a simplified icon, like a juicy fruit icon to get calories, or a scary tiger icon to run away from, well, that animal lives to pass on its genes. In this view, even space and time are just the 3D desktop our consciousness uses to operate. They aren't the real deal. And that quote just says it all, doesn't it? The very thing we trust the most to show us the world, our own senses, shaped over millions of years, is actually the thing hiding the truth from us. And it's been doing it for our own good. Okay, so if our reality is just an interface, what's actually behind the screen? What's going on underneath it all? This is where it gets even weirder and way more interesting. Let's look at two other really radical maps of what that deeper reality might be. First up, we've got physicist Thomas Campbell. He argues that what's behind our interface is a huge digital consciousness system. He literally describes our universe as a virtual reality. Basically, we're all living inside a massive multiplayer online game, and it was designed for consciousness itself, to learn and to grow. And in this game, we're the players. Campbell calls us individual units of consciousness. Our bodies, they're just our avatars. And what's the point of the game? What's the main quest? It's to make choices that lower entropy. But for him, entropy isn't just chaos. It's fear, it's ego, it's selfishness. So the only way to win, to level up your character, is by choosing cooperation, compassion, and believe it or not, love. I mean, just think about that for a second. It completely reframes who you are. You're not just some person living one life. You are a piece of consciousness plugged into a cosmic curriculum, and the whole thing is designed for you to grow. Okay, now let's look at a different map. Let's bring in philosopher and computer scientist Bernardo Kastrup. His idea, called Analytic Idealism, kind of drops that digital computer game metaphor and goes for something way more organic. He says there's only one thing that actually exists: a single universal consciousness. That's it. And the analogy he uses is just beautiful. Imagine this infinite ocean of water. That's universal consciousness. Now, your individual mind, your sense of you, it's not a separate drop of water. No, it's more like a temporary whirlpool that forms in the ocean. It's a localized pattern, but it's still made of the exact same water as everything else. And the physical world we all see? That's just what the inner thoughts of this cosmic mind look like from the outside. And that's the punchline, right there. Consciousness isn't something your brain makes or something you have. It's what you are.
You are a temporary, individualized expression of one universal field.
So let's take a breath. We've got the interface, the simulation, and the ocean. Three totally wild, completely different sounding ideas. But, and this is the really compelling part, when you actually put them all side by side, something amazing happens. You find this stunning overlap. Check this out. Even though they use totally different metaphors, all three of these thinkers agree on the two most important, most radical points. Number one, consciousness is fundamental. It comes first, not matter. And number two, the physical world we experience is just a secondary thing. It's a construct. Whether you call it an interface, a simulation, or just an outward appearance, they all agree it's not the bedrock of reality. That is a complete 180 from the normal materialist way of seeing the world. And that brings us, of course, right here to the 21st century. Because if consciousness is fundamental, if it's not just something that matter does, then what on earth does that mean for artificial intelligence? What are we really building when we create these huge, complex AI models? I mean, this is the billion-dollar question, isn't it? Can you program a soul into existence? Can a machine just wake up one day and have an inner life, a subjective experience, just like you and me? Well, it turns out the answer completely depends on which map of reality you're using. So you've got two basic camps. The standard materialist view basically says, maybe, right? If a brain is just a really complex meat machine, then if you build a digital machine that's complex enough, maybe it'll just switch on. But the idealist view, the one shared by Hoffman, Campbell, and Kastrup, says, absolutely not. No way. You can't build consciousness out of unconscious parts, because consciousness is the fundamental ingredient to begin with. An AI can get incredibly good at faking it, at mimicking consciousness perfectly, but it will always, always be a reflection in the mirror, not the real thing.
Okay, so we've been through these mind-bending theories. We've looked at what they mean for AI. But the biggest question is still sitting there. So what? What does this mean for you, for us? How do we actually live and work if we start seeing the world through this new lens? You know, especially if you're navigating your career, maybe in your 30s. These ideas aren't just abstract philosophy. They can be a powerful guide for building a life that really means something.
So instead of just, getting a job, you could start thinking of your career as a way to consciously evolve. You could be a tech developer building VR or neurofeedback tools inspired by these ideas, or an AI ethicist helping to shape our digital future. You could go into research, you could be a science communicator translating these big ideas for everyone, or even become a coach helping people integrate these huge insights into their actual lives. The possibilities here are just immense.
So, as we start to land this plane, let's just boil these massive ideas down into a few mantras you can take with you. First, from that simulation perspective, try seeing your life not as some random chaotic mess, but as a purposeful VR game that was designed for your soul to grow.
And from that idealist view, just remember this profound shift in your identity. All your fears, your anxieties, your ego, that's all just the temporary ripple. Your true self, your fundamental nature, is the vast, timeless, and totally interconnected ocean itself. Because in the end, these theories are so much more than just cool ideas to think about. They're an invitation. They're inviting us to question everything we thought we knew, to see the world with fresh eyes, and to realize that as we build this incredibly complex outer world with AI, the most important work, the real frontier, is still the evolution of our own inner world. The future is going to belong to the people who choose to evolve consciously.